On this episode of the Pit Therapy Podcast, we talk about the vocalist from City and Color's side project, Alexisonfire. We also talk about how they rose to fame super quick in Canada and the effects of side projects on bands. So thanks for jumping on, and let's open this pit up.
Somebody hit somebody!
Welcome to this episode of Pit Therapy Podcast. I'm Kyle, and I'm here with Trevor and Josh. So what's up, guys?
Not much, man. Another week,
Recovering from
another
Halloween.
band. Yeah.
Recovering from Halloween, I'm reaping the benefits of Reese's right now. So if you can hear some,
Gross.
What
I'm
do
not
you
a
like?
Halloween
What do you like?
person.
you're probably
And I
like
don't-
a black licorice or Peeps and candy corn type of person.
No, I don't do candy. I have an issue with candy, and we're not going to get into it right now. But
An issue is in like you'll indulge too much or like
no, it's super weird, and I don't know if I'm ready to like expose that part of my life to the public.
Dude, I have a
Gotcha.
bag. Nothing can stop me.
That's
gross.
true. That's true. Dude, your daughter as Wednesday looked awesome. So her costume was great.
Dude, it was hilarious because my sister did her makeup for the parade that morning, and I didn't
Yeah.
say a word to Cheyenne, and she about lost her mind in the middle of the lunchroom, and I was laughing really hard. So,
Do you guys feel like you got less trick or treaters this year?
No, we got more.
You got more?
Yeah.
Dude, my street's
like we didn't
wild.
like it.
They will have like people come from different neighborhoods and park all down my street, and they just go. I think my bucket lasted a half hour, and then I kept the second bucket because I'm selfish.
See, we're
Took
in
all the
like
good
a
candy
newer
out.
neighborhood. We're in a newer neighborhood, so as some of these homes have gotten like finished and stuff like that, it's brought more people into our neighborhood. So last year, we probably only had like 10, 15 people who came through. And it was just kind of the people who we had started to make friends with. But this year, because so many more houses are done, it was crazy.
Yeah, that's kind of how my neighborhood is too. So
Cool.
we were just like Josh. We were out of candy in like the first 30 minutes.
That's sick.
So,
That makes me like pumped because after like COVID and stuff, like it just got weird. Then it really sucked there for a while. Like I remember going up to houses, and they like people were like so against trick or treating, they like blocked off like their porches and everything, and yeah, and like some people had like PVC pipes coming from their porch to slide it down to like kids and stuff. Super weird.
yeah.
I saw a thing on Twitter that someone was complaining about trick-or-treaters and stuff like that and super worried about the kids because of all the drug epidemic and stuff like that. And someone commented and they're like, I don't know if you bought drugs recently, but they are way too expensive for dealers to be lacing candy
Yeah.
for kids.
Yeah.
So, but no,
Crazy.
we all live in pretty safe areas, so I wasn't
Yeah.
no concerns here.
Did you see that Bob Knight died?
No, really?
The college basketball coach?
Oh, that's a bummer.
I know. So throw a chair in his honor.
Where's that aftermath of a train wreck video? Aren't they
Right?
tossing chairs in that one?
I think so.
There might be a chair
Right.
thrown.
I think there's a chair in that one. We'll have to
There is.
repost it. We'll have to have a tribute to Bob Knight. Maybe
Tribute
that's
to
the
Bob
next.
Knight. One of the greatest college basketball coaches of all time. Terrible human being, but great basketball coach, man.
That's awesome.
So
Yeah. So new music. I feel like the last week and a half, 2 weeks, there's been just an insane amount of bands that have dropped new music.
yeah, dude, so much, and it's so hard to keep track of. But big release, Mouth for War. That album was awesome.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Crime in Stereo. If you guys like them, their new album's awesome. And it's been a few years since they've put anything out, so it's good to see their music. Taking Back Sunday, did you guys listen to that?
I listened.
I
To
haven't
the
listened to
first
the
drop,
whole
but not the
album.
full CD.
Yeah,
Okay.
same.
I was super underwhelmed by it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I did listen to Blink a couple of times.
I haven't even listened to it. Is it good?
Yeah, well,
I've heard mixed reviews on it. I've heard a lot of people be like, "Hey, it's just meh," which is how I felt about Take Back Sunday too.
That's my opinion. It's just meh. There
It's like
was
the rest of their stuff.
I think it's the
No.
best release
Come
they've
on, bro.
done since like 2002, for sure.
Really?
Oh yeah,
Holy cow, dude!
I'm just saying. Like, what was it? Enema of the State
So is
was
that are you saying that this
99.
album? Are you saying that this album's really good, or just the rest of their discography kind of sucked?
All right, we're done with that take. That's trash. Josh, actually
I
explain
wanna
yourself.
What do you think their last best record was?
I wouldn't put this above what was the last one called? 9?
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't even put this above California. Like
Yeah,
with Matt Skiba.
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You just said it's like their best album
It's their
since
best
Enema of the
album.
State.
I said it's their best album since 2002. Enema of the State came out in like 99. Take Off Your Pants and Jacket came out in like
Yeah,
2002.
but that's what I'm saying. I wouldn't say it's any better than 9, or I wouldn't say it's any better than California. I don't
Oh,
think that it surpasses those.
I think it's better than both those for sure, by a long shot.
Is it because Matt Skiba was doing the vocals on those ones? Does this feel better because it's Tom?
I think that's got more of a Blink feel to it, like the original Blink feel. Because
I'll agree with that.
the Neighbors album from Blink-182 wasn't good.
No,
Is that what it's called, Neighbors or Neighborhood?
I don't know,
And
something
then,
like that.
and then their self-titled was okay. The one with like Feeling This and I Miss You. But that was like,
Sure.
meh, it was kind of meh. So I think like if this album would have came out right after Take Off Your Pants and Jacket, that would have been a good follow-up. Is more what I'm getting at.
I thought it was meh. I didn't care for it. Like, it was fine. It had a couple high points and stuff, but it had a ton of low points where I was just like, you can skip that song, just pretty regularly.
I'll take your guys' word for it.
But how about them pulling out the "What the F is up, Denny's"?
Oh
You guys
yeah,
see
they like
that?
ripped that off. Yeah, they didn't even give credit to the original band.
Yeah. So
That's a
apparently,
lot of comments.
because I've been following this drama, I added a couple of the dudes from the band on Twitter, and so I've been following it. And someone apparently has reached out, so they are trying to make amends.
I mean,
Let's
it's
just
one of the
say-
greatest hardcore videos of all time. So you got to give them credit for it.
Exactly.
I'd be pissed, but
They sell a painting of it.
The
And I want
Denny's.
it. Yes.
Yeah.
like Denny sells a painting of it.
Some
I've
website
seen it.
does.
It's just
Well, I
If
haven't.
anyone doesn't know what we're talking about, just Google hardcore Grand Slam or something like that.
yep.
I haven't
Exactly.
really
I
listened
think
to-
at this point, because of Blink, everyone should pretty much know what it is, because of them ripping it off. So, yeah,
Which, didn't that happen like 10 years ago?
yeah, it was a long time
2013.
ago. So that's pretty dope.
And they're just making it famous now because of that. Which I guess if you're in the hardcore scene, I knew about that video for like a few years.
I'm pretty sure I heard about it kind of when it happened. Like,
Yeah.
it made its rounds pretty fast.
And all these people trying to knock it off like at an IHOP. Like, come on.
I've seen that one
But see,
too.
then like unironically, they do it at a Waffle House, and it's like a hardcore pit at a Waffle House is the least violent thing happening there. All right.
You've seen that thing? It's, Denny's is for people who can't fight at Waffle House.
Exactly. My wife, we were like driving past a Waffle House, and she's like, "Do you want to go to a Waffle House?" I was like, "It's not 3 a.m, and I'm not doing meth. Like, I don't know if I can." But I
went to
freaking
a-
love Waffle House.
I went to a Waffle House in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and we hung out there at like 2 a.m, and it was wild.
That's scary. Yeah, that's scary, especially in Albuquerque.
Yeah, well, I haven't listened to like any new bands, but I listened to one the other day. My friend sent me called Manic Hispanic. Dude, they're actually really good.
Yeah, you sent them. Ska
Yeah,
band, right? That's where I had it from. Yeah, you sent it. That's right.
Yeah, he sent me a new single that hasn't been released yet, like a clip of it, and I'm like, this is actually really good. But like, I was just laughing. My wife wasn't too impressed. Have you ever?
Ska music creeps up on you, man.
Have you guys ever listened to a band called Teardrop?
No.
They formed from a band called Hardside, and they do a really good Typo Negative cover, which is the other band I've been listening to. Have you guys ever listened to Typo Negative?
I
I do
have
know
listened
typo
to
negative.
Really good, creepy, depressive Halloween music, but I actually kind of like it.
Typo.
So
Yeah.
So some new tours. That Incendiary tour coming in Texas with
Yeah,
God's
it's
Hate,
sick.
Twitching Tongues, and Conservative Military Image. I'm going to be out of town on spring break for it, and I'm crushed.
on spring break?
That sucks.
Oh yeah, March.
Yeah. It's like March 9th, and that weekend we're driving down to like southern Texas to go to the beach. But I might get sick or something before, and then I freaking love Incendiary, dude, and I don't know that I'm going to be able to see him again because they're like one of those bands where like the singer's got a full-time job and like they don't really tour, you know?
Neither does Suburban Scum.
Oh yeah, Suburban Scum's with them too. Yeah.
Yeah, they got a new. I don't know who their new vocalist is. I don't remember, but they played This Is Hardcore this last year, and they had a really good turnout. So
Yeah, I saw that. Do you like Conservative Military Image? Have you listened much to them?
I have not.
Okay, they're sweet.
I've seen Incendiary, I've seen Twitching Tongues and Suburban Scum. I never got around to seeing God's Hate. When they started playing, I wasn't really traveling to go to shows much. So, but
So you've
yeah,
never seen them. You've never seen God's Hate play the song God's Hate off the album God's Hate.
God's Hate, no, no. But
Did you guys see Twitching Tongues do the Twitch Fits cover this weekend?
Yeah.
That
I
was pretty
did,
cool.
yeah. That was for I think it was a benefit show for their place that they're losing. So Momentum played, and they kind of posted about it, said that like the benefit show turned out well, and like tagged him in it. I think his name's Taylor. Does that sound right?
Taylor
Yeah.
Young.
Yeah. There's a Taylor Young benefit show, something like that. I think it's really cool to see a community is small, but like as in big of a city like LA, to get to come together and be like, let's kind of put something together, make somewhat of a
Yeah.
difference. There's so many bands that those guys have like put together and like play in and have put out that a lot of the LA scene today would not exist without those dudes. So
I think it was Taylor Young who posted in 13 years he started 11 bands.
I don't doubt it.
It's crazy.
So,
all right. Well, good stuff. If anyone catch one of those shows or whatever, let me know. Cool.
yeah.
Well, let's get it on and talk about some Alexisonfire. So, did you guys get a chance to listen through their discog?
I went through every single song they've put out. So, because they had a
Even-
bunch of like singles and stuff too that were released at just 2019, 20, 21.
Did you listen to the Math Sheet EP?
Yeah. No, like I said, I went through it all. So,
Yeah.
I went through like 3 albums. I didn't really listen much to the newest one, kind of skimmed around. And then that one EP, Dog's Blood. Is that what it's called?
that was really good.
Yeah, Dog's Blood EP. I thought that was really good. I was really into that one.
Just for those out there, it is pronounced Alexisonfire.
Not Alex is on fire.
It's not Alex is on fire. It has been confirmed. It is Alexisonfire. It's named after a porn star. She did try to sue them because I think their website was that as well, and she was like not cool with it. But lawsuit was not unsuccessful. So, been around since 2001. They formed after 3 bands broke up that contained current members of Alexisonfire. Did you guys listen to any of their like prequel bands?
I didn't get around to any of the prequel bands. I've listened to some of the side projects and things going on after the fact, but I didn't listen to anything before.
So I couldn't find anything on one. There was one called Condemning Salem, which had the vocalist, the screamer, I guess. Couldn't find anything on that. Helicon Blue was Dallas Green's like initial band. And it's pretty like generic rock sounding, kind of a grunge feel. And then Plan 9 had, I think, a couple of the guitarists, and basically was a ripoff of Misfits.
Huh.
So,
Hmm.
but yeah, those three bands broke up. They all got together, started making music. They're out of Canada. This is what, like the third Canadian band we've talked about?
So we did Dead and Divine,
Misery Signals.
Misery Signals,
Mhm.
and yeah, Alexisonfire.
Well, was Misery Signals Canadian, or were they from Wisconsin? Milwaukee. I think it was Milwaukee. Right?
The
Right.
vocalist is from Canada. The
That's
first
right.
one.
We'll grant them the Canadian
Okay.
citizenship.
We all look at Canada as like the little brother, anyways, right?
They all,
So
they all share the same accent, same lakes. It's fine.
I'll tell you what. It was. Did you watch any interviews of these guys?
Mm-mm,
No.
we did not.
It was super funny listening to them talk because you hear them sing, and I don't know why it is, but when people sing, they all like there's no accent, right?
They
But
all
hearing
sound
like
American.
yeah, hearing all the hearing the screamer, Pettit, I think is how you say his last name, and Dallas talk.
Mm-hmm.
They have like super heavy Canadian accents, and they say like weird crap. Like one of them was trying to talk about something far away, and he was like, "Yeah, it was from here to Neptune." And I was like, "That's the most Canadian thing I've ever heard in my entire life."
I mean, they'd probably say the same thing when we refer to the things in the BFE. So
Yeah, probably. So yeah, release an EP in 2002, Math Sheets. They named it that because the CD was wrapped in the drummer's math homework. So, nerd. So Trevor, you listened to it. What did you think about it?
it was fine.
Fine. This is just
Yeah.
a demo. It was
I
okay.
mean, like, it's what we talk about with all like stuff that initially comes out. It's generally okay, right? I don't think that there's any band that makes it popular that when you listen to those initial demos where you're like, man, that was terrible, Because if it's terrible, the band's not around anymore. If it was okay, they start getting recognition, they get
Yeah.
picked up by a label, and they go on to their next album. So it was fine. So
It's always interesting though to listen to those like demo EPs and things like that because I don't know, it just feels really cool to be like that's where they got their sound. Like
yeah.
that's like from inception, it wasn't like something they grew into. It was like you could hear it in their first demo EP in 2002. You're like, yep, they kind of knew what they were doing. It's cool,
Yeah, exactly.
And then they go right into releasing the self-titled full-length Alexisonfire, released on Distort Entertainment. Did you see some of the bands that label had?
Yeah. We talked about this I think it was with Dead and Divine. Distort is like the big hitter up in the Canadian scene.
Yeah. They had crazy bands like Comeback Kid, Architects, The Bled, Bleeding Through, Cancer Bats, Dead and Divine. Yeah. North Lane, Oceana, and Periphery. Those are all pretty big metalcore bands right now, and I don't know. Listening to one of their interviews, Dallas makes a comment about signing a sucky record deal and stuff, but I don't know, man. You look at what this label has done for all these bands. Most of these bands are huge,
They're the
so it must
victory
not
of
have been that
Canada.
sucky. Is that what they said?
I don't know. I'm just kidding. But no, I mean, like, it's interesting. We hear all the time that it was a bad record deal, that it just like it wasn't good for the band. Like, at what point were like record deals? They were what they were. Like, they weren't bad deals. Like, I guess every band got screwed, right? Like, negotiate better. Sorry that you lived in the 80s and 90s when it was all crap.
I kind of wanted to ask Josh that, like, what's the thought process? Are you just so anxious and excited to get a label talking to you that you just don't care, or has it changed now where like people pay more attention to it?
I think in the era of like 2002, like it was really hard for underground bands to get their name out. So like if a label was like, "Hey, we'll help you," they were willing to take any help that they could get. But all those bands too were also like, in their late teens or early 20s, not a fully developed frontal lobe. So like, yeah, you can make stupid decisions, signing stuff. But I think now where bands can be a lot more self-sustained, like they can record their own stuff, they can print their own merch, they can book their own tours and stuff like that. That I don't think the help from a label really goes as far as as it used to, for sure.
I think that because everything is so easily self-produced these days. I think that that's exactly right. A label is no longer necessary for you to make it big. They can help and they have the connections and all of that kind of stuff, but you can make it on your own these days. There's a lot of independent artists that are up and comers that are doing great. My sister in law is actually going through it right now, and she's starting to talk to managers and stuff like that. And she's debating on whether to stay independent as opposed to signing with the label. And she's got some pretty big names after her, kind of thing. Like, it's really interesting watching her process as she's navigating all of this. And she's in like the indie scene, right? So, different than what we're talking about a little bit, but same mentality.
Yeah.
Like, are you booking tours? Are you getting all that stuff done? And I think that that's where a manager actually comes into play more than a label.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
good. That's a good point.
it's no different from treating it from your job, right? Like, let's say if you're responsible for X, Y, and Z, you're not really going to hand those responsibilities off until they grow to a point where you can't manage them yourself. And so you bring somebody else in to help you manage it. Or if you're an artist and if you're booking your own shows and people are showing up, there's no reason to have somebody book your shows for you unless you
Right.
become too busy in your artist self of moving on to other things to help you grow as an artist, or you're like, hey, I need someone to step in to make sure that this is taken care of.
Or you just don't know who to call next, right? Because if you're keeping it local, if you're keeping it within, let's say, a 4 to 5 state radius kind of thing, you'll make those connections. But if you want to do like a full US tour, you probably don't know the person in New York. Or let's make this even more remote. You probably don't know the person in Omaha, Nebraska that you need to stop on that tour spot and make connections with, kind of thing.
This
So,
this probably ties in though to what we were talking about. I can't remember. Was it AFI about the importance of the local scene though, right? Because if you start getting big in your local scene, well, somebody knows someone somewhere else, right? And then you start making friends with bands in other locations, and then you start knowing where to book there. And I think that like it is possible now, and I wonder if that's got a lot of these record labels kind of worried a little bit, right? That they're losing a lot of their need. But I guess if you get to a level of popularity of like Drain and stuff, then you probably have to have a big label to help handle just the like size of record distribution and crap like that. So
I mean, you kind of view it as like if do you change the own oil on your car, or do you send it in?
yes.
I send it in.
Right, you send it in as a convenience because you'd rather just have somebody else take care of that while you're off doing other things, right?
That's just because I don't know how to do it. Because
or you're like, you're like, hey, I don't know how to do this. You know how to do this. I'm just going to take it to you, and I'm going to go do what I know how to do. Simple.
right.
Something.
But see, I also like it would be a lot easier if I could just call Josh and be like, "Hey, come change my oil." That's what I'm saying. Is like I wonder if like nowadays bands are getting. I wonder if that's how things are starting to go now. Is everybody knows everyone now because of social media and stuff.
Well, and technology to be able to record your own self, that was the hard part. Like I did an EP in 2008, and to record real drums is a real pain in the dick because you have to have like a solid wood floor, really tall ceilings, and like top of the end mics. Everything has to be like tuned every couple hours, and you have to do like 5 or 6 takes on each track, and it has to be on a grid, all that stuff. It's a pain. And not everybody just has these old wood floors and has these tall, great ceilings. And so you end up paying a lot of money to go into a studio to do that. Well, now everything's just so easily digitally done on a computer where you can literally make your drums sound real after they're programmed in. You would never notice. And it's on a grid system, so like everything's on time. So if you have a drummer that can't play on time, which 90% of drummers just can't, they're not trying to fix it. It's just solid. It's just on.
Well, or you could just want to digitize it anyways and go Infinite Annihilator status and make ungodly tracks. So, which have you seen? There's a bunch of videos going around of people playing Infinite Annihilator tracks now. It's awesome.
Have you listened to that Meshuggah band?
What?
You listen to them at all? There's a
Have
sorry,
we listened to
what
Meshuggah? Yes,
Meshuggah.
I've listened to Meshuggah.
I thought you were
What's
calling
that?
me that. Like, what's up with sugar?
What's that famous song? Is it called Bleed?
Yeah,
Yeah. It. Somebody was telling me it took them about a month to record that track. They're like, because I don't know if you've ever like tried to play it in your head or when if it ever comes on in like a stupid video, you get thinking about it like, how did you play that over and over and over and over? Like, and it's perfect.
All right. Getting back to the album. What did you think of the self-titled?
Which hold on, I need to pull them up.
The self-titled.
the self-titled, the first one with the
With the
chick
girl
with the
on
knife.
It's
Yeah.
got 44 caliber love letter.
The song that
So
you
here-
referenced
so-
when we were talking about these guys.
it. Okay, so this was the first album. I was like, okay, I'm gonna listen to this album. You know, the first song's great. The rest of the record, no, was not into it. Like the next song, the counterparts and number them. What a terrible riff! Like makes me so mad that you go from 44 caliber love letter to that, and I was just like, so anyway, I just let it, play in my headphones and listen to it, and none of it just was like as good as I remember, and it really bummed me out about it.
I loved it. I thought it was a great album. I
Yeah,
thought it epitomizes that generation of post-hardcore. They went on tour with like From Autumn to Ashes and Ecstatic Lullaby during this time period, and it's like I couldn't have asked for like a more perfect tour of that sound, that type of sound, you know?
I think so. I found an article of Brooklyn Vegan talking about this, and they said when you think of early 2000s emo, what comes to mind? The two singers, one who screams, one who whine sings, chaotic song structures, bright melodies at the most aggressive moments, and then like the angsty teenage poetry, even as spoken word. Like that is what this album was,
Yeah.
and it set up what you're saying. Like there was all these bands. There was the From Autumn to Ashes, a Static Lullaby. I actually thought that they were. I thought they were influenced by Alexisonfire. I didn't realize how early a Static Lullaby started. So like they were all in this group that all were part of the, what do you want to call it, the whiny post-hardcore emo
Whiny,
scene.
sure.
Yeah. The one thing that set these guys apart is freaking Dallas Green, man.
He's a legit
His
singer.
singing is insane, and it just gets started on this just enough for you to hear. And then the next album that we're going to talk about, that's where he
So
elevates.
you brought up the spoken word parts of this album. My only complaint is some of that spoken word stuff on this album is just so freaking cheesy.
Oh yeah.
The spoken word part on was it Dagger Through the Heart of Saint Angelus or whatever? I was
Yeah.
like, this is the worst thing. This is so bad. But it also, like, I don't know though, like back in 2002, if you're like a high school kid listening to that, you're probably like, nah, dude, this is exactly what I want right now, you know? As you're wearing your like Jinko jeans and tight black shirt with a chin strap beard, you know, you're like, this is perfect for me.
No, for sure. I totally agree with all of that. The interesting thing is how these guys rose to popularity. Did you guys look up that and figure out like all of that story? So Canada, because Canada has to be different, instead of using MTV, had Much Music as their TV video, music video station. And they used to have a like call in voting for music video program. And it had everything. It wasn't just like genre specific or anything like that. So it was like Britney Spears versus like Alexisonfire. And somehow they got enough following for their music video that enough people were calling in and requesting that they rose to the number one spot. And in doing so, it actually encouraged the people who helped to film their videos to film 2 more videos for them. So these guys rose to popularity because of MTV Canadian style, which was Much Music, which was pretty dope.
Crazy.
that's cool.
You looking at the band though, they really did like just explode.
Yeah.
You know, it was just crazy because right after this album, you have Watch Out in 2004. And it is a way better produced album. Like this might be one of the best glow ups that we've seen from a first to second album of anyone we've talked to.
What were we? Oh, who was the other band that we said that about?
I don't remember, but I do remember we said it about someone.
We were talking about that because I know that
Yeah.
Josh said something about Stick to Your Guns if they had an EP prior to,
Yeah.
but
But
no,
no,
you're
like
right.
huge glow up with Watch Out. I really like this album. It's definitely not as heavy as the other one, a lot more melodic and a lot more singing.
Mm-hmm.
But like Accidents is a freaking amazing song. And if it wasn't for Crisis, I would probably say that this was my favorite album.
I think this fit Dallas's vocals like the best. That's what I really liked about it.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to
I
listen
mean,
to, I think.
right. They do change their sound a little bit, right? They're less chaotic and heavy, and it definitely leans more towards Dallas. And what I wanted to ask is, do you feel like that impacts the people in the band at all? Like, cause it's really like Dallas Green up there, and then everyone else is just playing with him.
Mm-hmm. I would assume so because City and Color came from Alexisonfire and it was just Dallas Green. So I'm
That was
sure it's
after this album, though. I think
well, yeah,
City and
that's
Color
what I
started
mean.
just after this.
Yeah, that's what I mean. As I think maybe it was somewhere after this in Crisis that it was just kind of like, okay, well, I'm going to kind of do my own thing.
Yeah, we're gonna get to that because I do want to talk about that. I have a couple questions around it because I don't know, side projects. I think is an interesting like
Sure.
concept in this stuff, but
Like overall, this is it's just a better produced, better step up album. They definitely settled into their sound. I actually prefer his screams on this album and everything too. Like I thought they sounded better. Dallas really shines on this one. Like I said, I thought that they were probably more of a direct impact on like a Static Lullaby, but they were obviously touring with them at this time. But this album sounds very similar to a Static Lullaby and stuff like that.
yeah,
Like it is just a solid album, solid take on everything. Josh, you're crazy. Like Crisis is what fits Dallas Green the absolute
yeah,
best. But
Mhm.
no, this was a really good album. This is number 2 for me. Like I think you said that,
same.
Kyle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The last comment I'll make about this album is they toured with Bane during this time,
That's pretty cool.
which
Yeah.
I think that's interesting, right? And I think that says a lot about who they are. And I remember going. I mean, we'll get into Crisis. That's I think the heyday when I saw them the most was around that time frame. But I would have killed to see them with Bane.
Yeah. Which I also really like the album art on this. Like I'd love to have a poster of this. The
Yeah.
Watch Out album cover. I think it's pretty dope.
Reminds me of like an 80s poster you would see in like a
Yeah.
movie theater,
Exactly. Like the old throwback horror kind of movie
like
posters.
Dracula
I
or the
think it's very
Blob.
dope.
Yeah. So moving on to their next one, Crisis,
Hey,
which
we gonna just skip over Switcheroo?
okay, you can talk about Switcheroo.
I'm just kidding. Did you guys listen to it though?
Mm-mm.
Now the only EP I listened to was the Math one, and then the dog one. What's it called?
Dog's Blood.
Dog's Blood. Yep.
Yeah. No, I mean, really, they just did. It's one of those splits where they did 3 songs covering a different band, Monin, or I don't know how I actually pronounce the other band that they covered with, but it's someone who they toured with pretty frequently at the early part of their career. And then those guys took 3 Alexisonfire songs and covered them. So
All right, let's talk Crisis.
Crisis.
Best album of theirs, 2006. Not much more to say. No, I'm just kidding. This really is the best album, dude. And this is an album that I probably listened to more than most bands in 2006. Oh, go ahead, Trevor.
this for sure is what, like, Watch Out was good. This made them mainstream. Like, this could be anywhere in the world. That song, it could get played on any radio station, be in any point, and like, it doesn't matter if you don't like screaming. Like, it is such a good song that you'll put up with the screaming if you don't like screams.
Josh, do you remember when we were playing in that stupid band in high school? You had your drum set in my basement. I would literally ask you like every 10 minutes, play the drum intro to This Could Be Anywhere in the World. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah.
It was like that, the Simpson thing where it's like, Bart, do the thing. That's how it was with Josh. I was like,
Yep.
Josh, do the thing. And he would just play this intro I could sit there and listen to him just play the intro all the time. That's how much I was obsessed with this song.
I have the same issue with this album like I did. They're self-titled. They came out with This Could Be Anywhere in the World. It's a great song. And they went right into Mailbox Arson, and it was just terrible.
Yeah, but then they
Crazy.
follow it up with Boiled Frogs, and Boiled
Terrible.
Frogs is another amazing song.
No.
There's only one
terrible.
song on this album I don't like, and it's You Burn First.
Yeah.
That song's weird.
I
But the
like
rest of it, dude, is incredible. You're whack for thinking that.
I like the song To a Friend, and This Could Be Anywhere in the World. The rest of the songs, I could care less. I just skim through them. I'm like, nah. Not
Dude,
good.
To a Friend is like, I listen to that song probably once a week. It's so good. It's I think it's my favorite song from them.
Really?
More than This Could Be Anywhere in the World.
Yeah. I can put on say Watch Out Now and play it front to back and like be totally content. This I kind of put it on and I'm like ignoring half of it.
That's the weirdest take, dude.
Yeah,
Because
this was such a good
you-
album.
You genuinely might be the only person to say that.
Black Sheep.
Yeah. It's not even Black Sheep, dude. You're like,
It's just weird
mutated.
because like we know what you like. Like we've known you long enough that in this genre of music, like this seems like something that should be right up your alley. But it's just that's a weird thing. Was it just other bands in 2006, other albums in 2006, or like
I like the vocals. I just was not into the music, the patterns, the chords. Like just nothing. Like I didn't think it sounded very good. I didn't think it just wasn't good. I don't know.
huh?
Like none of it.
That's strange to me. I
That's
did not
super
think we were going to get
interesting.
that take from you on this album.
Yeah.
No.
All of Alexisonfire, honestly, that we've talked about so far. The fact that they have like a borderline, not bad in like music, but like bad in quality first album, the self-titled. Like that's right up your fourth. Every band we talk about, you're like, I like their first album. But you can't even listen to it because it's like the quality's so bad because it was made in 1776, the whole band, this fits everything you said on every other podcast. It checks all the boxes for you. You're just like, no, I don't like
This is weird. This is like your Dance Gavin Dance take. Like you're just hating for no reason to hate.
No, I get the Dance Gavin Dance take because I can.
I feel like you're having a
can
bigger
line up for
crisis than this album is.
I think that's why they named it that because they knew people 20 years later were going to be like, I'm going to have a crisis when people don't like it. So
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
They just so here's the thing. It's not like poor quality that turns me away. I think maybe it's the mix. The drums in like I say, the drums in This Could Be Anywhere in the World like fit great for how that song is written, but like the rest of the songs it's like too much reverb, there's too much like it just like threw it off for me. I couldn't get into it.
I guess I could see that.
that's what I was going to say. I get where you're coming from. And I think the problem here is that they took, but I also think it's part of like why they're so good. I think part of the problem is they took members from different bands that sounded nothing alike. Right? You had like a traditional punk band, and then you had a rock band, and then you had like all this different stuff, and they put them together. And Alexisonfire, and us normal people think, hey, that's a good mix. But I could also see where you're like, yeah, they probably have conflicting stuff where they're like, hey, the guitar should sound like this. And then someone else that has a punk background is like, no, it should sound like this. So I could see where you're coming from that point. I think it's wrong, but I can see where you're coming from with that. So.
See, like you actually making that comment makes more sense to me than you just saying like it's just not good. Because like I can understand now why you're saying too much reverb, too much just happening overall on it. It gets a little bit muddy. I personally like it. Like I thought that it sounded really good. I think in full honesty, full transparency, I think that I like it so much because Dallas Green is phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely at the top of his game on this album. And he just sounds so good. And so maybe from that aspect, I'm giving this album more credit than if we were to take vocals out and just listen to it instrumentally, maybe it doesn't get as much credit as we're
Mm-hmm.
giving it, kind of thing.
His vocals did change a little bit on this record too. Like you could put this and City and Color together, but like in the earlier records, it's
Yes.
a little more raw.
Well,
Yes.
except, yeah, I think it's raw just because of the production of it. I will say, though, that in the older albums, especially like Watch Out, the softer songs in it feel like you could have just copied those and put them right on. Like his first City and Color album, the Like Knives, I think is what it's called. You could, like, I feel like it's the same riffs, it's the same music, it's just with an acoustic guitar.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Well,
I don't know.
in the earlier stuff, I feel like he's like projecting a lot more, like almost kind of yelling. Like you can tell he's putting a lot more energy in those vocals. In Crisis, he's like almost like backed off, or he's figured out how to like not do that and just kind of like chill play. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What's crazy is I watched a video on YouTube of them playing live back in like 2003. He sounded the exact same live back when he was like a kid playing. And I'm just like, it's not fair. Like, you know, like a lot of these guys, like I think had to grow into that voice a little bit, you know, but he was like 2002, 2003 just sounded exactly like Dallas Green does today. And it's not freaking fair, you know? So, okay, let's get on to Old Crows, Young Cardinals. This was 2008. I guess when they were writing this album, they had already been talking about breaking up, and they had a bunch of songs, and they just wrote a bunch of songs and put out an album. So I don't know, like that they were really in it at this point. I feel like you can kind of hear that in this album. It sounds pretty generic to me. I'm not a huge fan of it. What did you guys think?
See, so this is what's weird. So City and Color has blown up at this time. So Dallas Green is doing his thing, solo touring and splitting time between Alexisonfire. I think it was McNeil, their other lead guitarist slash vocalist, came out in 2008 and basically said, like, we don't really know the status of Alexisonfire right now. And then, like, a month later, they announced that they were in the tour or in the studio recording this. But then he also said, this is some of the heaviest music we've ever written. And then we get this. And
Yeah.
I feel like the entire band probably had a plan, and then Dallas Green came back and was like, "Nah, I'm not doing that." Like that's almost what
Yeah.
this feels like.
No, dude, I totally agree. And that's why I made that comment before of, do you think how much of like Dallas Green and his fame and all that stuff kind of it's the Johnny Craig effect. I know that Dallas Green was before Johnny Craig, but I think Johnny Craig like exacerbated this a lot more. That like when Johnny Green
Johnny
or
Green.
Johnny Craig, hey, it's because I said exacerbated. And I'm like, that's a weird word. I probably should have said that. And then I got super mixed up in Johnny Craig and Dallas Green.
Kyle
Anyways,
trying to use words he doesn't know
exactly.
the meaning
Yeah,
of.
I've got a dictionary like on the side here. I'm just flipping through finding words to use. But I just feel like the focus gets put so much on these guys that are uber talented that it probably takes away and ruin and kills a little bit of the drive for the band.
Well, I think that, but I also wonder if he just came back and he's like, guys, I can't put that out. You know what I mean? Like, who knows what this next record was? I mean, you start to look at some of the bands that these guys moved on to. McNeil goes to Gallows. Pettit goes to a band called Dead Tired. Have you guys like listened to Dead Tired and stuff like that? Like these are like fast, aggressive, punk hardcore bands.
Did you listen to Black Lungs?
Black Lungs, yeah.
It's insane.
Like they move on to heavier stuff. And Old Crows, Young Cardinals came out, and it just feels like who knows what the conversation was behind scenes, behind closed doors, but everyone else in the band seemed to want to keep that hardcore punk roots, probably go back even a little bit more towards Watch Out after they did Crisis. And it's almost like Dallas Green probably came back. He's like, guys, I'm a folk singer now. I'm not doing that, bro.
You guys
You
ever,
know, like it's
you guys
weird.
ever get to see the Gallows?
I saw Gallows we saw Gallows at Warped Tour.
Dude,
Oh, that's right.
they are so good. They played
We
on.
saw him though when Frank Carter was still the vocalist.
Yeah, they played on the grass.
Yes, yeah.
We got up the
And they
stage.
circle pitted around him.
We don't do this stage crap. We're coming down there.
Yeah, and they were circle pitting around him.
Yep. I really liked Young Cardinals, the
Mhm.
song.
I did
really
too.
like
It's
that.
probably my favorite song on the album. Yeah.
I was gonna say though, I don't even know if I would call it like the Johnny Craig effect. I'd almost just call it like almost like famous singer effect. Because you had Johnny Craig, you had Craig Owens, you had Dallas Green, you had
Anthony Green.
Anthony Green,
Mm-hmm.
you know, Aaron Gillespie, because did the almost it,
Yeah.
and they all kind of share this. I don't know if I say share, but they all kind of fall in the similar thing. Like they all kind of went back to their old projects, and it was just kind of like, nah, I'm not doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is, this is right after City and Color puts out Bring Me Your Love. He just blew up with The Girl. He blew
Yeah.
up with Body in the Box. Like these songs that are very popular that people are starting to know his name that are probably like starting to look up who is Alexisonfire and stuff like that. And to be honest, like maybe the band made the decision that's like, hey, let's capitalize on his success. You know, maybe that
Maybe.
was part of
Yeah.
the conversation too. Who
So
knows?
I wanted to ask though, how much does like side projects take away from these main bands? And this is just out of ignorance for me because I've never like I'm not a musician. I'm not in a band. Like, do people get bugged? Do they think that like, hey, Dallas Green is using up stuff that we could be using for Alexisonfire? Or do you think at this point they're kind of like, nah, Alexisonfire's had its run, whatever's left in the tank is cool and all, but like we don't really care? Or do you think they're like, hey, Dallas, I quit using these dope lyrics on City and Color, and why aren't you focusing on your main band that got you here? You know?
I think it can, but I mean, at the end of the day, like the lyrics, from what I've seen, the lyrics belong to the vocalist. I mean, I don't think I've ever been in a band where I've ever felt like malicious towards somebody else for them taking a riff that they could have used in our band or whatever. But I mean, there are like side comments kind of said, and I'm like, we got no problem right from that band, things like that. So like
So
it can.
it is like a conscious thing that you pay attention to when you're in a band when someone's got a side project.
Yeah.
Do you feel a little like
It more kind of
oh,
comes
who's
down
your
to
side
like,
chick? You know?
yeah, it more kind of comes down to like, if you're not into it, just tell me you're not into it. I don't care, but don't waste my time.
This one's interesting just because of how different the music is, right? Like, sure, maybe lyric wise, you might be able to use a couple of things here and there, but I wouldn't say City and Color lyrics fit Alexisonfire.
I don't know though. You listen to some of these songs on Old Crows, Young Cardinals, and the next one, Otherness, and I'm like, man, those could be City and Color songs.
Okay, but I'm referring to Crisis and Before. Because
Okay.
Old Crows and Otherness, like after Crisis, they are a different band. That's my opinion. Like they feel like a different band. Dog's Blood got a little bit back to Crisis, got a little bit back to Watch Out and stuff like that. But even the other singles they put out, Familiar Drugs, Complicit, Season of the Flood, like it just didn't feel the same. And I kind of said this in text before. I feel like they're thrice. Like I actually don't mind any of it. I thought that the albums were fine. Like I would still listen to it. I think it's good music, but it's different. It's not the same. It's not the same post-hardcore feel anymore.
Yeah, I don't think it's as drastic as Thrice, but
Sure.
I get where you're coming from. Yeah, I don't know. I think about bands like Koyo. I think about because I know they've all got side projects or whatever, and I'm just like, don't you dare ruin that. You know, same with like Citizen because I know Matt Korekis has like, what was that? Is it Crypt that he just? Is that what they're called?
Mm-hmm.
His like hardcore band that he just dropped. I think they just dropped some songs. Brandon Murphy from Counterparts with End. It's like,
Mhm.
don't you guys go screwing up these like amazing bands with your stupid side projects. Like, but I get it. Like they probably, especially in Dallas Green's case here, like, you know, he's a folk singer now. Like he probably was like, this is what, you know, this is the music I'm listening to. This is what I want to write. Like I want to change the pace. I want to write soft music. Like that's cool. But I wonder how much of that is like, well, you kind of screwed over Alexisonfire, which got you here.
But well, here's my take on it though. Like every band starts from some kind of side project. I mean, Koyo was a side project.
100%.
Their drummer played in plays, or so he
See you,
played
Space
in
Cowboy.
he played in CU Space Cowboy. He plays in Reign of Salvation, and then Joey was the bass player for Typecast, which were all great bands. And so Koyo was the side project from that, and it was kind of the same feel. Like, don't you dare like ruin this band. But Koyo's great, you know. Or like even
Yeah.
bigger bands like The Rookie. The two side projects that came out of that was Taking Back Sunday and Brand New, and those
Yeah.
were
No,
two
okay.
great. I don't know. I just kind of a different take on it. Like, I mean, and obviously, City and Color would just do better than Alexisonfire just because of the kind of music it is and the people it attracts.
See, and I think the difference here is just how big Alexisonfire really got when City and Color started to blow up. Like Alexisonfire was actually already a pretty big mainstream band at that point in time when he decided to start releasing all this music. And it wasn't until that 2008 release that City and Color blew up the way that it did.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think it was the girl that I think it was on an Apple commercial or something like that. And that's what took Dallas Green to the next level. That's what takes Dallas Green from Alexisonfire, post hardcore stuff to being in a band with Pink in You and Me. You know what I mean? Like that's what elevated him. So like I get what you're saying, Josh. Like we like Typecast, we like Reign of Salvation, all of those bands, but they're not like as big. You know what I mean? Like this was like a big band. This is like kicking Dave Mustaine out of Metallica to go and do Megadeth kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like it's just different level.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like to me.
Yeah. I don't know. I love City and Color and I love Alexisonfire. So like, but it just, I don't know. It kind of made me think about the effects of that, but it's good music. So Dallas Green is a gift to all of us, you know, being able to listen to him sing. So, real quick, last album, Otherness. What did you guys think of that?
Meh.
Man,
Wasn't it? So they played. I don't remember how long ago it was, so I could be off, but they got together and played like a reunion show, like 10 years later. So it'd have been like 2019, maybe. I remember seeing a clip of it, and I was like, oh, "Man, I'm really bummed that like didn't get to see it." So just watching the video of it, and then it was shortly after that they announced. I think they released a single. I want to say somewhere around that time, and it wasn't that great. It was kind of a letdown, and so I never really gave the new record a chance. And I mean, so listen to a little bit, and it's just kind of,
To me, it doesn't feel like anyone really has their heart in this band anymore. They've all got their own projects. They're all doing their other things. Pettit's a firefighter in Canada. Like, you know what I mean? So they're out there doing a few shows and things along those lines. And it feels to me like it's a couple buddies who just kind of got back together. Nothing like super stood out to me on that. The one that you skipped over was Dog's Blood EP. That was actually really good. I don't know if you listened to that, but the first song, Dog's Blood, was a super good song. Throwback to almost like Crisis and Watch Out. And then it has Gray, which is a little bit heavier. And then Vex is instrumental, which was kind of weird. But
yeah,
did you guys listen to Death Letter?
yeah, I did.
Yeah.
did not.
Am I wrong? Is it?
No, it is City and Color.
It's City and Color covering Alexisonfire songs. Yeah. So yeah, no, Dog's Blood was super cool. I did this with Thursday, but I actually found George Pettit rates Alexisonfire albums. You want to
Okay.
hear what he had?
Yeah. Yeah.
And he actually includes the EPs as well. And this is only through 2016. So Otherness is not included on this. So number 6, worst album, he says was self-titled. He said that there were like demons that he had to fight with this album in terms of like justifying its production quality and stuff like that. They recorded in like 7 different studios for this album. And it was made off of a budget of like $2,000. He's like, sure, a lot of people love this album and stuff like that. In my opinion, it's basically trash. It's
Yeah.
kind of like what he said about it, which was kind of interesting. Number 5, EP with Monine, Switcheroo, is he has that. And basically he just said, this is like a love letter to our friends. Like they toured a bunch together and everything along those lines. You listen to it, I mean, that's what it sounds like. It's
Yeah.
just meh. Number 4, he has Watch Out. And he says that he can't even listen to this album anymore.
Really?
He was talking to Vice, who was doing this interview. He's like, I listened to all of our stuff. I didn't listen to Watch Out. I can't. Like, which I thought was super interesting. And the Vice guy thought so too.
Yeah, I don't feel like it's the worst album they've put out. So
no. So there must have been a lot of stuff happening then that they just like, you know, who knows what the actual situation was.
right.
Number 3, he has Old Crows, Young Cardinals. Number 2, he has Crisis. Only at 2. He said that this is the one that essentially set him up, right?
Yeah.
This is the most mainstream. This is where everything was very cohesive. Everything came together. The album flowed very well. That was one of his complaints about Watch Out, is he felt like it was a little bit jumbled. But number 1, he has Dog's Blood EP. He said that like Watch Out, in his opinion, it's just like he puts it on and it's fairly unlistenable to him. Just like their song structures, their vocals, a few things along those lines. He said Dog's Blood was the complete opposite for him. He can put it in, listen to it, and it's a good listening experience, which most artists like don't tend to listen to their stuff often, you know?
Yeah.
So to be able to do that, you know, says something about a 4-song EP.
Yeah, for sure. I wonder if he had more influence on it or
Probably.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Less Dallas, more him.
Less Dallas, more him. You know, I did watch an interview that they did. It was right after Otherness came out. It was Dallas and George on the CBC, which is like the Canadian broadcast instead of the BBC. It's like the Canadian version of it. It's freaking Canadians, dude.
They jack everything.
I know.
CBC, Much Music, like what the heck?
Did you see? This is a weird tangent, but did you see that Canadians, like Americans, have been voted nicer than Canadians now, according to like airline flight attendants?
That is a weird
Suck it,
take.
Canada. Anyways, I watched the CBC interview with Dallas and George, and they said they just like seemed like they were getting along. Like they talked a lot about like how they've always been very close and how close the band is. And you know what's cool is I think only one member has left the band the entire time.
Yeah, it was a
The
drummer.
right?
Yep.
So this is a band that's been around for 20 plus years. They've lost one member in that time. It seems like they're all still pretty close. They came back and made music. I know we like can speculate a lot on things, but out of all the bands we've talked to, like relatively low drama with each other, you know, like I wonder if maybe their rise to fame too, like made them just realize like we can do our side projects, but this is where we make money. So let's all be chill.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, I think that was probably because there was some animosity. That's what led to their initial breakup in 2012, I think is when they took their hiatus or whatever. But I think that there was probably some bad blood towards Dallas, towards blowing up City and Color. You know, he's making it big. He probably had a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I bet a lot of that money did not make it back to Alexisonfire kind of thing. So I think that there was probably some bad blood, some bad situations there. And then for the fact that Dallas says he's having a mental breakdown and he has to pick between the two, and he chose City and Color over Alexisonfire, probably caused some issues. But I mean, they're back together, right? They did reunions and they've put out a new album and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting to see if they keep going with this. But like we just talked about, they're in other bands. Gallows is still going. Who is it? Tired? What Tired? Dead Tired is still going, kind of thing. So
Yeah.
I'm not going to say the name of it, but Jordan Hastings has a punk band. Go look up Jordan Hastings if you want to learn the name of it. But
Yeah. There's like, it's been fun doing this podcast and going back and reminiscing on some of these bands. I still have listened to Crisis as I've gotten older. Going back and listening to the rest of their discography is really cool. But listening to Crisis, it like really is a huge nostalgia kick for me. Thinking about making Josh play the intro to that song on the drums. And then when I was playing World of Warcraft like a ton in 2006, I literally would like only listen to Crisis. And so just like weird memories like that start popping up, right? When you're listening to some of these bands, you're like, yeah, I kind of remember like where I was in my, basement and playing World of Warcraft, listening to Crisis, and it just brought back that kind of feeling of nostalgia. So it's been really cool thinking about these guys. I hope they keep making music, and if they don't, at least we have City and Color and his new album that came out. I think was it earlier this year or last year?
Early this year.
Earlier
Like
this year
May.
is so freaking good. So yeah, good. It's a good time to be a fan of Dallas Green. So
for sure. Your memory of Josh is Alexisonfire. My memory of Josh is making him play Raised by the Tide, Mailing and Sons of Disaster on guitar.
yeah,
That was the riff that I would have Josh play.
Josh was just our like musical whore.
It was.
Chained into the basement and made him play riffs and drums for us,
Well, I mean, we couldn't do it, so
No.
might as well get the one kid who can play it all and just make him play everything.
Exactly. It's crazy.
We just blame Charlie for all our problems.
Charlie, if you're out there, it's your fault. So,
oh man, good stuff.
glad we could talk about them. That's all I got. So I think Trevor, you're up next. So we'll have to see what band you got coming. We'll put it out there and stuff. But yeah, that's all I got. So I will
Cool.
talk to y'all later.
Later,
Peace.
Yeehaw.